Alright, so I'm going to be teaching you everything that I know about Vim. We're going to be starting from some of the beginner things and then ramping up to some more advanced techniques that I use. So you're going to be learning all of the keybinds and shortcuts that I use when I'm just coding every day in Vim. Now, I think this is going to benefit you a lot if you spend the time to learn it. It probably takes about a few weeks or so to actually get, used to Vim. And then after that, it's one of those things that's going to pay huge dividends over the course of your software engineering career. And I wanted to just answer one comment that I saw about what's the big deal about so you can code faster in Vim. And I want to just answer that by saying I don't think it's so much about what you're going to get is coding faster. I don't think it's about the speed at which you're typing or going. Because I'm not even that fast of a typer myself. My words per minute is not that fast. But what I think what does give you is efficiency and being precise and very effective. I kind of see it like, do you want to be the guy that is digging a hole with a shovel, or do you want to be the guy that's digging a hole with a bulldozer? You're just going to be able to do it a lot easier with the bulldozer. And I feel like that's the same way with Vim. Once you learn it, it's going to feel like magic, and you're going to be like, wow, I want to use this everywhere. So it is a text editor, and you can use it to edit code, and you're going to want to kind of use those keybinds in other places because you just like it so much. And you're going to wonder, why was I not using this before? So yeah, let's just go ahead and dive into things. I have my terminal up right here, and so Mac and Linux users, you can open your terminal, and Vim, I believe, comes pre-installed. Windows, you're not so lucky. You're going to have to Google how to install Vim. Maybe with the Linux subsystem, that can help you out, and you can open up prompt and follow along. Alright, so we are going to type Vim and then a file. And you'll notice I have these little alerts that are going to be popping up here, so you can follow along with the keys that I'm pressing as I'm doing stuff in Vim. Alright, so I said Vim, that's the command to open Vim, and then I'm pointing it at a file. So this happens to be a file that I'm in my current directory, and I'm going to say enter to open it up. So if you want to follow along with the exact same code that I'm using, I'm going to put this link in the description. Otherwise, just open up a piece of code that you'd like to edit. So just Vim and then the name of the file that you'd like to open. Alright, so this is Vim. So you'll notice the first thing is you can throw away your mouse. It's pretty much useless. See, as we click around, nothing happens. But at the top left here, we can see that is our cursor, right? And I thought the first thing I would teach you is how to exit Vim, because that's become a meme now, and you just get stuck in here. So you don't get stuck, let's start with how you can get out of here. Alright, so if you say colon, you'll notice your cursor is now down here, and now you can type letters down there. The letter you're going to want to type is Q. That means quit. Now you can prefix this with a W, which means you want to save and quit, or you can put an exclamation point at the end. That means quit and don't save the file. So after you've typed the command that you want, if you hit enter, it's going to quit out for you, right? So colon, and then WQ would save the file and quit. Q just quits if you don't have any saved changes. But let's say, like, I don't know, I add a J. Alright, actually I don't want to delete all those files. We'll add some stuff there. Alright, so I added these two letters right here at the top. We're going to talk more about how I just did that. And I press Q. It's going to say no write since last change. So we can either do Q exclamation point to not save our change, or WQ to save it. Alright. The other thing to note is if you want to just save your change and not quit, if you say :W and then enter, that'll save the file as you're going along. Alright, so by default you're in command mode when you first enter Vim. This is what command mode looks like. Your cursor looks like that. And so what you do from here is you can move your cursor around by pressing J and K. So J goes down, K goes up. You can press L to go to the right. You can also hold these things down, and then H takes you to the left. Right? You can hold it down to go up, down, and so on. And then once you've navigated to the place you want to start typing stuff, you press I. This drops you into insert mode. When you're in insert mode, you can type. So here I can say hello. All right. And then this is just, you can type normally. And then if you hit escape, you go back into command mode and you can start typing commands. The first command we're going to learn is the D command, which is delete. So if you press D twice, it deletes a line. So now I just deleted the hello line that I just added. Press K to go back up, J to go back down, and again, L and H to go left and right. So yeah, this is very weird at first. I remember when I was first starting Vim, this was very hard to get used to. But it's going to become natural soon enough, so force yourself to use these. Because you can also use the arrow keys to get around, but this is way worse. You're able to keep your fingers like right where they should be if you're normally typing, and so it's very handy for other stuff later on. So definitely recommend just kind of moving around, getting used to this, and forcing yourself to use these keys. All right, so the other way you can move around in Vim is with the G key. So here I'm going to press capital G to go down and double G to go back up. And one thing I'm going to just mention real quick is if you watched my last Vim video, we're going to be going over some of the similar techniques. So if you want to skip ahead a little bit, you can, or if you want more practice, you can go through it again. All right, so here G takes you to the top, your capital G takes you to the bottom, and G takes you to the top. So that's the cool thing about Vim. We don't just move one at a time up and down. We can start moving in different ways, right? So capital G to take your cursor to the very bottom of the file, GG take it to the top. You can just press those back and forth to go up and down. The other one that I quite like to use is to skip blocks of code. So that is right curly brace goes down a block of code. So you notice how there's like code all the way from here to here. And so what it's going to do is going to take your cursor from here all the way down to there. And then I can do the left curly brace to go up a block. And then I can hold it down and we can just skip a couple blocks of code. And we can go back up. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll capital G to go down, and then I'll go up a block of code, and then I'm basically near the bottom of the file. And that's one way you can kind of navigate. All right, and then again, I can just hold my K if I want to move like this, if I want to move a little bit slower. The other thing you can do is you don't have to just sit here and press K the entire time, or J, and just wait for your cursor to go down. You can put numbers in front of it. So for example, I can put the number 20 and then press J. What that does is it takes you down 20 lines. So I could say, maybe let's go 50 lines down, or 50 lines up, or 10 lines to the right. So you type a number, and then you can say HJKL, and any of those things work. By the way, numbers, I'm going to press GG to go to the top. Numbers you can pretty much put in front of all of the commands in Vim, and it's going to basically do it that many times. So for example, I can say 10, and then I can do a curly brace, and that's going to take me down 10 code blocks. Let's do 3 code blocks up, right? All right, let's do GG back to the top. All right, now let's talk about deleting a line and then undoing it. So here I'm going to delete this line with DD, and then I'm going to press U to undo it, right? And then I can press DD again, DD again, DD again. So I just deleted it 3 times. If I press U, that's going to undo it once. I can undo it again. So you can press U a couple times to unravel each undo. So U is a very handy one. And again, we're all in command mode right now. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing commands to move around and modify the code. And then to add code, you're usually going to go in and you're going to type, like that. All right, we can delete that again with D. So how I just did that sequence is I pressed I, you can press enter, you can go up with arrow key there, and I can just say hello, escape out, DD to delete it. All right, J down, we're going to do L over. The other thing is when you delete something, you may want to undo it. You can redo with Control R. All right, so undo is U, Control R is redo. Those are very handy. And again, you can Control R a couple times if you need to. So let's delete a couple things here. I just use period. So I guess period redoes the thing that you just did. So for example, I just did D, and I want to do it again. So you can press period to do it again. We're going to talk more about period in a second, but it's a nice one. All right, so what I was going to show though was I can U a couple times I can also Control R a couple times to redo a couple times. So each one you can repeat. Alright, so another handy thing that I like to do is just copy and paste lines of code. So let's say I want to paste this line of code right here. I can hit Y twice, that copies the line to my clipboard, and then I can go to where I want to paste it and then push P. Now P will go below, so paste below. Now I believe if I want to paste it above, I can do capital P. Yeah, I rarely use capital P. I just had like a vague recollection of it. I usually just press P to paste it down. The other thing you can do is you can delete a line, so DD, and that's going to copy it to your clipboard. So let's actually delete this one since we already had that one on our clipboard. So again, DD to delete, P to paste. Go and paste it as many times as we want, right? You can move up, paste, move up, paste. So K to move up, and then P to paste. The other thing is, usually I like to know how much I'm going to delete before I delete it. But if you know exactly what you want, I can press, for example, 10 and then DD, and that's going to delete 10 lines of code. So again, you can put numbers in front of these, and it's going to multiply or do that number of times. Okay, so I like to use capital V. What this does is this drops you into visual mode. So visual mode allows you to select a group, and you can visually see that you have it selected. So you just, from here, you can do K to go up, J to go down. You can use all your movement commands. So the other movement command we went over is curly brace to go down. You can do capital G to go down, GG to go back up. So any of the movement commands you can use here. And that's just going to show you what kind of the text you have selected. And then when you have it selected, you can do stuff on top of it. So for example, I can press D to delete it. Then I'm like, you know what, did I really want to delete that? Let's press U. You know what, I actually did want to delete it. And then we could do our redo with Control R. And then U again to bring it back. Alright, so J to go down. The other thing is I want to insert a line right here. Like you see where my cursor is, it's right here. And I don't like how these things are touching. So to insert a line, what I'll usually do is I'll press O and it'll drop you down. And then you can hit escape and it'll take you back out of insert mode. So by default, what O does is it adds a new line and puts you inside insert mode. Hey, right? So we can now type however we want to. Now I can hit escape to go back out, press D to delete it if I don't want that line. So I can also add a line above, right? O below, capital O above. Right, so just there's capital O, it's going to add a line above where my cursor is. So I'm escaping again. By the way, this is my escape symbol. Kind of weird looking. Alright, so I'm going to press D, delete that. Other thing I wanted to mention real quick is there's about 100 different ways to do the exact same thing in Vim. So pick the way that is most natural to you. So what I'm showing you right here are the commands that are easiest for me and that I remember the easiest. But again, there's tons of different commands you can mix and match. So for example, we can press D and then we can do a move command. So like curly brace down, and that's going to delete the entire block. So that's a pretty cool one that I just learned. And I'm going to press U. But what I prefer to do is to just usually capital V and then select the line so I can visually see what I'm deleting before I delete it. So like 99% of the time, if I'm deleting something, I'll usually go into visual mode. And by the way, capital V is selecting blocks of code or lines of code. So notice like when my cursor goes up, it selects the entire line. So usually I want to see what I'm deleting before I delete it, and so I'll do that and I'll press D to do it. But again, if I want to delete that, there's tons of different ways I could have used to delete it right there. Right, so I think I can, yeah, remember we talked about you can do like 15 and then DD, delete 15 lines of code. So just note, you can pick the different ways you like. There's no right way to use Vim. There's tons of keybinds that you can do. Okay, so now we're going to get into how to move in the horizontal direction. So we kind of talked about where you can get to a single line or move up and down. So now once you get to the line you want to go to, we can now quickly kind of get to the part of the line that we care about. So for example, my cursor is up here at the top, and I want to just go to the next word. So this is the most common thing that I'll do to move across the line, is I'll press W, and W takes you to the next word, right? So you can see if I press W, it basically just goes a word at a time. Now I can do the reverse direction by pressing B, and that'll go backwards. So W and B is a very nice way to just go through the line here. So this is me just pressing W and B to go back and forth. One other thing that I wanted to mention was if you want to go to a specific line, we can press colon and then do like 30, and that'll take you to line 30. So let's say I want to say colon 200 to go to the bottom, or colon 0 to go to the top. We can do that. So I'm going to go to line 80 here. We're going to move down, and now if I press W, you're going to notice it's going to stop at some interesting places, right? You can see it stops like that. Now, if I want to move my cursor all the way to the beginning, again, I can press B all the way back, but that's kind of annoying. So we can speed up the process by pressing 0. 0 takes you to the very beginning. If I press W again, caret will take you to the beginning, and then where your cursor is right here, the first word basically. A combo that I like to do is I'll press 0 and then W. So 0W basically emulates the behavior of caret. Alright, we can go to the end of the line by saying $. So 0W at the beginning. And then if we do capital W, you'll notice that we kind of like go further with every press. And so what the W does is it ignores punctuation, or capital W. And there's also capital B to go backwards with that. So if I press W, we go all the way to this equal sign. So you notice, I guess we just break at spaces. So space, actually let me start pressing capital W. Yeah. So you notice like it ignores everything until the next space, it looks like, is what capital W does. The way I've heard it said is it ignores, oops, let's turn off my sound. The way I've heard it said is it ignores punctuation, capital W. And capital B is going to take you back. So depending on how much you want to move in the line, you may use W, right? Or you may use capital W. I tend to just use W the most, and then I'll just hold it down until I get to the place that I want to. Because this is pretty fast to get to the place that I want to. Now we can be even more precise if we want to. So like let's, for example, say I want to go to this exclamation point here. If you say T and then exclamation point, the T stands for go to basically. So see how it took my cursor right next to it? I believe if I push F, so I just did 0W to take me to the beginning. If I say F and then exclamation point, you'll notice my cursor will be directly on it. So F takes you on it, T takes you one to the left of it. So we can go exactly where we want to in the line. Another cool one is the percent sign. Percent sign will actually take you on the same line, or it'll span multiple lines. What do I mean by that? So here you can see it's a curly brace. Percent will take me to the other curly brace over here, right? And we can toggle back and forth. So let's say I go up to a parenthesis right here, and you can see the ending parenthesis is here. So if I say percent, it's going to take me down there, and now my cursor is here. So that's a pretty handy one. Now again, we can press like D and then percent sign, and we're going to delete everything between those two percent signs. So we can press U to undo that. So you can put, I forget what they're called. I don't know if they're I know this is called a motion. So motion is like when you do a move. I'm not sure exactly what D is called. I think that may be called like a change. Well, that's C. We're going to do C in a second. But this is basically a command that changes something. Oh, by the way, so like I've pressed D here, and let's say I was thinking about pressing D again to delete this line, but then I changed my mind in the middle. Like I pressed D and I'm like, you know what? I don't actually want D. You can hit escape to clear that out. So I press D, escape, and then you basically reset. So you can do that if you want to be like, oh, you know what? I actually do not want to like use D at the beginning. But yeah, so we can do D and then whichever movement command we want. right? So that's where we can do percent, we can do J, we can do K, we can do our up block, down block, and so on. All right, let's U take us back. All right, now let's talk about C. So D is for deleting, C is for changing. All right, so let's say I have the word to-dos here, and I don't want the word to-dos. I want something else. I want to say to-do list or something. So what I can do is I can say CW, and that stands for change word. So I can say to-do list. So you'll notice what it did is it got rid of the word, and then it dropped me in insert mode. All right, and then I'm going to hit escape. All right, and then I'm going to move my cursor to the beginning of to-do list by pressing B, and I'm going to say DW. It's going to be delete a word. So I can very easily spam DW a couple times to delete some stuff. Now I'm going to press U and undo this a little bit. Oops, went too much. I'm going to Control R. All right, I'm going to say Shift G to go back down to where I was, and I'm going to do up curly brace, left curly brace to move up. All right. A lot of times you may want to like just delete everything to the end of the line. So like for example here, I can do capital D to delete the rest of the line. You'd undo. So capital D deletes the rest of the line where your cursor is, or everything to the right of your cursor basically. Capital C is going to delete it and then put you in insert mode. So a very quick iteration that I can do with this is I can be like change, and then we can type out our code, and then we can go back to command mode. All right, I'm gonna undo both those. Now you'll notice usually if I'm coding, I don't want to delete like the very end. Like maybe I want to keep this bracket right there. So a lot of times what I'll do is instead of doing a capital C to destroy the entire line, or entire to the right of the line, is I'll do C, and then I say T, and then I say what I want to change until. So what that means is I now press the letter. So the letter I want to change into is this curly brace, so I'm going to do curly brace. So what I just did is I deleted everything up into the curly brace, and then I went to insert mode. I could do the same thing with D. So I can say D, T, and then the curly brace, right? Deletes everything to the curly brace. And I can do this with really any character. So up here, a common thing that I'll do is I want to delete to the slash. So DT slash. So again, it is DT and then whatever letter you want to delete to. Now note, let's say I want to delete to this T. You notice that there's a T already here. So if I do D, T, T, deletes to the T, it's going to hit the first one. And I can do D, T, T again to delete into the T. All right, so there's change T slash if I want to drop into insert mode, and if I want to like delete it and just stay in command mode, then I do the D instead of the C. All right, let's do U. Go back. All right, so there you go. So that is a really nice one that I spam a ton. So this one is very handy also for when I want to just like change the prefix of a word. So like I have to do form here. Let's say I want to keep the form part. I'm just going to just say CTF, and then we can say like YOLO form there, right? So here I just changed the beginning part here and kept that part. So it allowed me to very easily just change the parts that I want to. Or a lot of times, like my function names are camel cased, and I want to change that. Another cool command that I like to use is the star. So here I can see that I'm on the word handle delete to do. So I'd like to see where else I'm calling this in this file, or where the word handle delete to is used. So if I do star, you'll notice it's going to take my cursor to this word. So if I hit star again, I can basically toggle between all the instances of this being used, right? You can do this with toggle complete too. I can see it's being declared here. I can see there is it there as well, and you can see basically it just finds all the words, all the places where this word is being used. So we can do this. Let's move our cursor down here. I was clicking with the mouse like a noob. All right, here we go. So update to do show, can star around, and we can get the location. And then I can say CTT, and I did capital T there because that was a capital letter here. Now I can rename that to Bob, or whatever I want. And now I can press U to undo because I don't actually want the Bob. But I can Control R to redo if I want. U back. And there we go. Alright, so W again is one that I like to just move around to location. And I would say those are the main ways that I move around this way. Is I'll press W and B to go back and forth if there's not a particular place. But if I want to be like really elegant, then I will just go directly to the place that I want to go. So I'm going to say T to the parenthesis, right, and take me directly there. Or F to the parenthesis if I want to go on, F and the parenthesis if I wanted to go directly there. Now let's talk about one other thing, which was if we want to go to like the next instance. Alright, so what do I mean by the next instance? So let's see, there's a capital D here, there's a capital D here. So let's say I say T and then capital D. I took my cursor here. Now let's say I want to go to the next instance of D. I can actually hit the semicolon here, and it'll take me to the next instance. Right, so I can press that again. There's no more in this line. Let's do this one here. So I'm going to find a T, and I'm going to hit semicolon, and I can go through each T in this line. All right, by just hitting semicolon, it goes to the next one. So that's another way you can kind of go that way, and occasionally I'll use this. All right, I don't think I talked about this command yet, but the Z command, you press Z twice, and it's going to center your cursor. So I use this occasionally to just like, I brought my, I want to like code on this line of code here. I did 0W there to go at the beginning, but that doesn't really matter. And I press Z to bring this to the middle. So Z, we're now in the middle here. You can do this when your cursor is at the bottom of the screen, CZ, or at the top of the screen. I like to do this occasionally to just center my work. Yeah, and I think that is all I wanted to show with the horizontal direction. Again, W and B are going to be your main players here, and then T, and then going to something, or F and going to something. Most of the time, I think I use T. That just seems to be the one I use, though F is another nice one as well. Oh, there's one other command I wanted to show you guys, and that is A. So capital A is usually the one I will use. Okay, let's actually talk about what lowercase a does first, though. All right, so A will take you into insert mode, and it'll move to the right once. All right, let's show that again. So my cursor's on the T. I press A, and you can now see my cursor moved over to the O. Right. So if I press I, that puts me in insert mode directly where my cursor is. A brings you over one to the right. Capital A takes you to the very end of the line. So a lot of times, like let's say I want to get rid of this semicolon. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll do capital A, backspace, and then I'll go back to insert mode, or sorry, command mode, hit escape. You can delete that with you. Another command I haven't talked about is just X. X just deletes a letter there. So if my cursor is on this, I can say X, and it'll delete whatever my cursor is over. Another place, again, I could say 10X, and it's going to delete 10 letters to the right. Capital I takes you into insert mode at the very beginning of the line. This I tend to use sparingly. It's a super handy one, I just don't tend to think of it too often. Alright, so now we're going to get into kind of some miscellaneous things and just commands that I haven't gone over yet that I really like and use all the time. So the first one that I want to do is capitalizing things. So I'm just going to move around with W here and J and K. And let's say I get to like this to do, and I actually want this to be lowercase for some reason. If you hit the tilde, this will actually swap the case. So if it's lowercase, it'll go to uppercase. If it's uppercase, it'll go to lowercase. So I can tilde some stuff, and I can swap the case of it. So I find this super handy. You can also do this multiple characters at a time. So like let's say I want to do the next 5 characters. I want to be change the case. You can do 5, then tilde, and then it changes them all, swaps them around. And so because I'm doing camel case a lot in my code, a lot of times I'm going to want to swap things, go over, camel case it or uncamel case it. And so that's a nice like little thing I could do to swap. All right, the next thing I want to show is the period command. This one is probably my second favorite Vim command. So what it is it redoes the last thing you do. All right, so what does that mean? Well, let's say I do CW to change this, and I'm going to rename it to Bob, and then I'm going to hit escape. So now I've moved my cursor here, and I want to push period. Right, so what you just saw is it renamed it to Bob. So it reran the command that I did, CW, and then retyped it to Bob. All right, we're gonna undo both that. And this is not just, this works with any previous command that you did. So like DW, delete a word, come down, push period, deletes the word. And so I love using this command. You can do DD, delete. I can just spam period a couple times, just deletes a bunch of stuff because that was the last command that I wrote. And you can get really creative with this. I think my like favorite use case for this is like changing things. So like between the two parentheses, or sorry, two curly braces here, I'm going to change this to be my func, and that's what we're going to call. So now I could do the same thing here, right? So I'm now able to both of these places easily make that change. And notice the insides were totally different. So I was able to just rerun the command, which was change until the curly brace there, and then type out whatever word that I wanted. So that's the way I use the period the most, and it's just super overpowered. So I'm going to do Z to center this. Another example, do capital C with this. Hello. A lot of times it's really just me doing the change command and then wanting me to change it in another place the same way. All right, so change the line, replace it with hello. You'd undo what I just did there. So here I want to change this to Bob. Up here I want to change this to Bob. I want to change this to Bob. All right, so I just did that really fast. So let me show you a breakdown of how I just moved my cursor there. So all right, so we do C, capital C, Bob, hit escape. I press K to go up here, and then I press B to go to the beginning. Then I press period, because period does the command that I did there. Then I do K. I press B to go to the beginning. Just do that. Also, let me show you one other way you could have done this, right? Because again, there's a million ways you can do these things. So let's do CW. So we're just going to replace a single word, and we're going to do Tom. Then we're going to hit escape. So now I'm going to say go up 5, so 5K, go up 1. Now I'm going to say 0W, bring my cursor there, hit period, K up, 0W, period. So usually change and delete are the ones that I'm using. So if I want to delete the whole line with D, I can do that. And so the period is just super versatile. All right, so I showed you the tilde, showed you the period. Let's do R next. So what R does is it lets you replace a letter. So let's say I want this to be a T. I can press R and then T, and then it just replaces the letter there. So you can press U to undo that again. So let's say I want this to be a parenthesis instead, R, and then what you want to replace it with. I actually forget what capital R is. I think what it does is it basically lets you just type a bunch of letters. Yeah. So capital R, and then I just press a bunch of letters, and it just see how it's eating the words there. All right, let's undo that. I never use capital R really. I don't think I really ever use it. I used a lowercase r if I want to replace a couple things. I think you can also, this is useful with like a number. So let's do O. So I just replaced 3 letters by doing 3R and then whatever letter you want. So I wanted to replace, let's say we want to replace this with the 3 threes. So I can say 3R3. So replace, the 3 tells it how many letters to go. R says you're replacing, and then 3 tells you what you want. Let's do 3 sevens. 3R7. Cool. So that is replace. Let's just move some code about and refactor it, and I'll show you like some combos that I usually do. All right, so I'm gonna just go up to the top with GG, and then I want to delete this block, this comment, because I don't want it. So I press J to go down. Command V, or sorry, I keep saying Command V. I mean just uppercase V, Shift V. And then I'm gonna move down. I move down with a curly brace. And then press delete to delete my comment. I'm going to say Shift G to go up, or sorry, to the bottom of the file. Now I'm going to say K and Shift V. We're going to go up with a curly bracket, and I'm going to delete this chunk. G to go to the top, P to paste, capital O to put a line above. Alright, so let's just go through that combo one more time. So what I wanted was to move a chunk of code from the bottom of the file up to the top of the file. So the way I do that was capital G to the bottom, K to move up a couple lines, then Shift V to highlight the code that I wanted. I went up with a curly brace, move down with J, so I'm just selecting the chunk that I want. I didn't talk about this, but if you didn't want to delete this, you can press Y, that'll put it to your clipboard. You could delete it with a D as well if you wanted to. So I'm just going to highlight that again and press D. So either way, if you press Y, it'll keep it there, D will delete it. Then we're going to go up with G, and then up here we're going to paste. And then capital O is going to give us a line. Alright, now I'm just going to type out some code. So export const to-do list. And this is just me coding, right? So now I'm inserting my code. And so now I'm like, I want to put a closing parenthesis at the bottom of this chunk of code. So I went back into command mode with escape. And then I'm going to do right curly brace. I'm going to press O once I had my cursor here to insert a line of code. Then I'm going to closing and closing curly brace there as well. And hit escape to get out. Now let's say I'm not happy with the way this is indented. Alright, so let's say I want to indent this over. I can do caret, and I believe it's caret twice, and then I'll indent it over. Now I can command V and select a chunk of code. So I did command V, then I went down a block of code with curly brace, and now I can say a single caret, that way it moves it over. Now I believe I can also specify how much to indent. Like if I want to do 3 indents, I can say 3 and then caret over 3. Oh, okay, it's 3 lines of code, not indenting it 3 that way. I use Prettier to auto format my code, so I actually never indent code anymore. But if you wanted to indent code, that's how you do it. Arrow. And we can go the left direction with left arrow, capital V, J to move down, can move it back and forth. Oh, this is another use case for the period that I used to do. Like let's say I want to move it over, I can press period to indent it again. Right? Can undo. So it just re-indents. But yeah, I never use the indentation anymore because Prettier just formats my code. I'm using an auto formatter. Alright, so %sign shows me the closing parenthesis. You can see the closing one there. And then I can move it over. Alright, so that was some MISC stuff. Okay, so I mentioned that the period command was my second favorite. Now we're going to get into my favorite thing about Vim, and that is macros. So the period allowed us to replay a single command. So for example, I have my cursor here. I do capital C, type something. Then I can come back to another place where I want to do the exact same thing, and it's going to replay that command with the period. Now let's say I want to do more than just the last command. Let's say I want to do several commands in a row. And that's where macros come in. They allow you to record your keystrokes and then replay them again. So let's see this in action. So I'm going to come down to the bottom of the file here. I'm going to center it. I'm going to press O to drop myself into insert mode, the line below. And we're just going to add a little space here. Okay, so here I'm going to say const r is equal to, and then I'm just going to have like an array here. 1, 2, 3. So a lot of times I like to use macros when I need to refactor a bunch of code, and they're very similar. Now I'm going to hit command V, not command, capital V, hit Y to copy, P to paste, and I can paste this a couple times. So we have some good amount of stuff to work with here. Now what I'm going to do is I want to run the same command on each row basically. So what I want to do is I'm going to start my macro by saying Q, and then I'm going to press a key that I'd like to save the recording to. So in this case, I'm going to save the recording to W. So now I'm going to say tilde, because I want to basically capitalize the first letter. I'm going to push H to go back, and then I'm going to wrap this in single quotes. So I say single quote, escape, capital A to go to the end of the line. Then I'm going to do tilde. Then I'm going to do a comma. I'm going to escape, go down a line, 0W to be at the beginning. And actually, you know what? I'm going to delete this line. I'm going to do DD. And then we drop down to this line. And then I'm going to end the recording. All right. So basically what I did is a sequence of commands. I did some stuff in insert mode. I capitalized the first letter. I wrapped it in single quotes. And I deleted the line under it. So then I can replay this macro on any line of code that I want. So let's say I want to run it here. I can do shift, and then I do shift 2, or the @ sign, and then capital W to replay the command. So capital W was the key that I saved it to. So you can save several macros at the same time by saving them to different keys. So now I can replay it by doing @W, right? And I can replay this macro a couple times, and it's going to play it through. And press U to undo it. And now, oops, turn my sound off again. I'm going to copy this. Oops, I don't know what. I pressed some random buttons. I don't know what just happened. But what I'm going to do is I reset it there. So I'm going to copy this, paste it. So now we have even more lines of code to work with. Let's say our array is very big. So what I can do is I can say 20 @W, and now it's going to run it on all 20 lines that I just had there. So you can see macros are super powerful. You can do any of the commands we just talked about, record it to a macro, and then replay it a bunch. So this can be really powerful when you want to refactor code that's very similar, and you can run this wherever you want to. So I can go to whatever line I want and run this @W macro. Now again, it's not really helpful on this line, so it's whatever. All right, let's go over one more example. So I pressed U to undo. All right, yeah, it looked like it undid everything. Let's go to the bottom with @G, and then curly brace, left curly brace to go up. Okay, so here, let's do another one. Like maybe I want to turn this into a bunch of records. So I'm going to say, let's say I want to turn these into records where I use these two lines. So I'm going to say Q, and I'm going to save this macro to E. So I'm going to press Q and then E to save it to the E key. And I'm going to go insert mode, and then I'm going to do a curly brace. I'm going to space it, and then I'm going to hit W. I'm going to hit capital A. I'm going to hit a colon. I'm going to space it. Can hit escape. Going to do down one. Gonna press 0, gonna press DW, gonna go up, gonna wrap this in a single quote, capital A, single quote, closing, and then a comma at the end. And then I'm gonna escape, go down here, 0W to restart it. Right, and then I can play this macro a couple times. Oh wait, that's my W macro. You can play this macro a couple times @E. Now again, there's nothing special about what I was doing during the macro. I just did what I wanted it to do. And then it replays those keystrokes over and over again. And we can undo this. So there you go. That is macros, and you can really see the power of them. They definitely take some time to get used to. So play around, create a couple macros, and see if you can start getting some effects going on. And you'll notice the way I set up my macros is I'll line them up so they kind of start and finish in the same place in the next line. If I want to do a repeat thing where they just go bam, 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 bam all the way down the line. And so that they finish. See how I start at the first letter in the word, and then I finish at the first letter of the word. It allows me to replay the macro again and again, and that's where I can do 10 and then replay the macro like that. Alright, so I've taught you all of the commands and shortcuts that I use in Vim. So what I want to do now is kind of refactor some code in slow motion and go through some of my thought process. And so you can kind of see where I'm using which commands, and you can kind of review the ones that we've done and get an idea of how you can use them together. Alright, so with that said, I'm at the bottom of the file here, and I want to just get rid of this chunk of code. I don't want it anymore. So I'm just going to say D, and then I'm going to do left bracket to go up, or left curly brace. And so that's going to delete that code block. Alright, and then I'm going to press J to go up and see what we got going on. Or K, sorry, to go up. And then looks like I have this guy at the bottom here that didn't get deleted. I'm going to do DD to delete him. I'm going to do period to rerun the DD command and just trim at the bottom. Alright, so I have this chunk of code here that I would like to bring to the top of the file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor at the bottom, and then I'm going to do capital V, and I'm just going to go up with K, and then I'm going to press Y to copy it to my clipboard. I'm going to press GG to go to the top of the file, and then I want to paste it in between these two lines. So to do that, I'm going to bring my cursor right here, and then I'm going to press P, which is going to paste it below. And then I want to add some space here, and I want to add some space here. So I'm going to do Shift O, so capital O, to add space at the top. And then I'm going to press Escape to go back into command mode. And then I'm going to come down here with J. I'm going to press O to add space down here, and hit Escape. I'm not going to worry about indenting this because whatever. Now I want to go back to the bottom of the file, so I'm going to do capital G. And you saw me just go up with K and then press W to go here. I didn't really need to press W. We press O to go back out. What I want to do is just delete this block right here. And we don't really need this render anymore. So I'm going to say D and then up a block, D, up a block with the left curly brace. And what I could do as well is capital V, go up, and D. That's the one I use a lot as well. Alright, so D. Now I want to move this up as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move, you just saw me move that chunk up that I just did. I want to move these guys up as well. So how would I do that? The exact same way. So capital V, D, up, paste, capital G to go back down. So you can kind of see, you can grab both of these. This is a more real time if I was doing it and I didn't want to be slow, right? So just to redo what I just did, capital G to go to the bottom, big V to copy, and then I'm using J and K to move up. I could have also done curly brace to move up a block. Then I'm pressing D to delete it, which also puts it on my clipboard. G to go back up, P to paste it, and then O to add some space. And then I can just rinse and repeat and paste it there. So that's a very common sequence where I'm wanting to take a block of code, move it somewhere else. So highly recommend getting used to that combo, something to that effect. Alright, capital G back to the bottom. Now I want to copy this stuff here. So I'm going to do Command V. Sorry, I keep saying Command Shift V. I'm going to come up to the top. And now I'd like to add space here, escape, and I'm just going to say const state is equal to use state. And I'm going to do that. Alright, I think I used the A command there, so let me show how I did that. So I went const, and I should use brackets here. Alright, so this is just me typing a word. So I went into insert mode by pressing I, then I typed this sentence out. Then I was done here. I don't want to type anymore. So I'm hitting the escape key, and really where I want to go is right here. and I want to start typing again. So what I did is I went down twice, and I did capital A to put me in insert mode right here. And then we can close that. All right, and so that was just me typing. And then we could use the % to flip back and forth if I wanted to. All right, so what if I want to make all these functions? And okay, you just saw what I did there is I went down, I think my cursor was here. I went down and then I wanted my cursor to be at the beginning. So I did 0 to go to the beginning and W to move to the right a little bit. So I'm going to add const in front of all these functions that I have. So I'm going to say I to go into insert mode, const, and then a space, and hit escape. 0W, period. So period's just going to redo what I did here. We can go down a block by doing the curly brace. Go down block, and here I'm going to do period again. And I could just go through each one and add const in front of it, right? So one thing that I just did here, I wanted to show you guys. So I went down and my cursor was like here. You can also press B. Will take you back one, right? And I can do that. So I do that sometimes instead of 0W. All right, so we have that refactored. I don't want the this keyword, so I'm going to say D2W. So that says delete 2 words. So the first word that I deleted was the this command, and then the period was the second word. All right, so I'm going to move my cursor down. I'm going to do a dot, and that's going to delete it. These two. Oops. I didn't mean to press that letter, so I just lost my place. All right, so we're back here. I'm going to press D2W to delete those 2 words. Do that here, do that here. This reminds me, there's 2 V highlighting things that I haven't really showed you guys yet, so let's do that real quick. So sometimes you want to just highlight in the middle. Like for example, let's say I'd like to copy this chunk right here. You see how I'm highlighting, not the whole line? So Shift V, there we go, Shift V, there we go, gets the whole line. If you want to get inside of a single line, you can press V in that visual mode, so that's non-capital V. You can see it highlights like this, a little bit different. And then you can do all the same things. We can press Y to copy, and I can paste just that, or you can press D to delete that chunk. Right? And I can press W or B to navigate in the line after I've highlighted. Another handy one is to be able to select entire, highlight entire column. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here. I'm going to delete this stuff here with capital V, moving up, and then a D. And let's go back to our example where we had an array real quick so I can show you this. 1, 2, 3. And we can copy this. Now we have a couple. And I press Z twice to center here. So what I can do is I can say Control V. And so what Control V does is you can kind of see, you can kind of get this effect where you can do blocks at a time. So what can I do after I've done a block? Well, once I have a block here, I can do R and then, I don't know, B, and you can see it replaced all those letters with the B. Or I can do a block and I can say D and delete them. Or I can do a block and for whatever reason I can copy it and we can paste it. Right, copy it with Y, paste it with P. So this is, I would say, is a niche one that now and then is super handy depending on the use case. I can't think of too many off the top of my head, but something like this where we have a column of things that we need to select, I usually use this visual block for. And so yeah, those are the commands that I'll do with it. Also, there's capital I. Hello there. And then if you hit escape, you'll see how it added that at the beginning of each one. Right. So let's go over that real quick, what I just did. So I've highlighted this line, then I did Shift I, and then I type whatever you want here. And then once you hit escape, what's going to happen is it's going to write that same line everywhere else you selected. Then I'm going to press U to undo because I don't want it, and Control R to redo it because I actually do want it. All right, so those were the 2 selects I haven't shown you. And then V, you kind of just select blocks, We can press X to delete, or we can press D to delete. All right, let's delete that. All right, let's go back up. I'm using the curly brace to do that. Jump blocks at a time. All right, so I'm pressing W here to go inside the line. I think I like what's going on here. Nothing I want to change. Forgot to get rid of this. Another way I could have deleted this is I could just did X and hold down X, right, to delete just a single character at a time if I didn't want this. Let's go back up here. I don't want this dot set state, so I'm gonna get rid of it. But I'm gonna come up to the very top here. And again, a lot of times what I do to navigate is just hold down a J or a K or an L or an H to move around. If I'm feeling a little bit more elegant, I'll jump blocks. But a lot of times I just do this because it doesn't take that long to do. All right, so I'm gonna come back here. So what I just did there so where I wanted to be is I wanted my cursor to be here. So what I did to get there was I had my cursor like here, and then I pressed B a couple times to go back. All right, so I'm gonna name this set state, hit escape, and I pressed I to go into insert mode there. And I'm gonna just go here and I'm gonna delete this. This is also a place where I can like set state and see all the ones. Right. And actually, let's do a macro real quick to get rid of this in front of all the set states. So this is actually something where it's probably easiest to do with a search and replace, but we're going to do it with macros so we can practice our macros. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of the this dot in front of all my set states. So I can see set state, if I hover over it and I push star, it's here, and 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 it's there. All right, so we have about 5 instances of it. And so what I want to do is I just want to trim this beginning part in front of it. Or maybe I want to rename it totally to something else. But I named it set state up here, so we'll just cut the beginning part. So I'm going to press Q, and I'm going to save this to let's do the D key. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say DW to delete a word, and I'm just going to press it twice. Then I'm going to hit /set state, and then I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to press B twice. And then I'm going to exit my recording. That's all I want to do. So I'm going to press Q to quit and save my recording to the D key. And so when I replay this, what's going to happen is it's going to delete 2 words, and then it's going to search for the next set state, and it's going to bring my cursor to the right position. So at D, at D, at D, at D, at D. Right, so I played that a couple times, and now we can see this dot set state is just totally gone. Now, if I had like a ton of these, remember what we can do is I can do like, let's run this 5 times at D, and it's going to run it against all of them. So if we see this dot set state, we can see this is the only instance. Right, so I did / to start searching. I typed my word, and then I pressed N to see where it is, and capital N to go backwards. This is the only one left. And then I can do my command D to delete it, and it's gone. So there you go. That is our macro for that. And then let's do this one as well. Just to remind you guys, because this one I spam all the time. I don't actually want to do to-do.id is equal to ID anymore. I'm just going to, so let me do this in slow-mo. We're going to do, I have my cursor here. I'm going to say CT, and then closing parenthesis, so change until the closing parenthesis. And here I'm going to say true. I'm just going to say always true. And I want to make that same change down here for this conditional. So I'm going to press period, and I want to do it for this conditional as well. It's going to just always be true. Right? So here I've decided I don't want this line anymore. Well, I want to replace this entire line with something else. So I'm going to do capital C here. And I'm going to say to-dos is now going to be equal to 5. And then we're going to hit escape. And let's go down here. I've seen like this whole block I don't really want here anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press D and then the %, and that's going to just, it's going to get everything between these two curly braces. Right, so I just undid it so you can see exactly what it was deleting. It's going to delete between these two curly braces. So delete %, it's going to get rid of that. And there you go. I think that's a pretty good amount of refactoring of code to give you an idea of some of this stuff. Let's do another C2 curly brace. So C2 curly brace, and then here we're going to say state.bob. And so I could do period to run that again. Maybe I'm just going to delete until this, and I'm going to copy Bob and I'm going to paste it here. Let's see that sequence. So I did that pretty fast. That's a pretty nice sequence that I'll do a lot. So what I did here is I want to delete, first off, everything from here to here. So I'm going to say DT curly brace. Then I press K to go up. Then I press V to start copying. And I'm doing V because it's in line. Then I can say W to go exactly where I want. Or I can say T and then the curly brace. Then I'm pressing Y to copy. So once I've selected that, I can say Y, and then I can come down here and hit P. And there we go. So let's practice that in fast motion again. So delete, come up, V, copy what we want, Y, and then P to paste. So that's a nice one. And there we go. Okay, so that is the end of my Vim tutorial. Now we only really got into about 10% of Vim, really, because it's just so huge. And there's still a lot more you can explore, a lot more keybinds you can figure out and try out. These are just happen to be the ones that I've like memorized and use all the time. Now I also didn't focus as much on the editor itself and some of the functionality of the editor, and focus more on the keybinds, because I actually don't use this editor anymore. What I use is a VS Code, and then I put Vim emulation inside of this. So what I mean is I have a Vim plugin that I have for VS Code, and so I do all my text editing in here, and you can see I got that little block cursor, and I can move up and down with J and K. I can do my capital C, my U to undo, and so on. So I have all my shortcuts in VS Code. Now it's not perfect. Vim, actual Vim over here is actually way better, but this is like kind of a compromise because VS Code brings some stuff to the table that's very nice. And then one last tip that I wanted to leave you guys with is rebinding your escape. So it can be kind of annoying to hit escape all the time. It's kind of an out of the way key. So what I do is I rebind it. So in VS Code, this is how I do it. And if we go to my settings, I have a Vim insert mode key bindings, and I have it bound to JK. So what that means is if I'm in insert mode and I press JK, that's equivalent of me pressing escape. So I have it rebound to that, so it's very easy for me to go between command mode and insert mode. So I'd recommend rebinding it to either JK. Another popular one is JJ, and caps lock is the other popular one I've heard people use. The other thing I was going to mention, just as a fun fact, is I actually use Vim also inside of Chrome, or at least I have this Vim plugin called CVim. So this is what I like to use to navigate just with my keyboard in the browser. So you can see on the right here, I'm pressing J and K. So K to go up, J to scroll down. I can do G to go to the top, capital G to go to bottom, GG top. So it has some of the Vim keybinds, and then I press F to click on links. So you can see I now press the BQ key to go inside there. And so this is pretty handy to just navigate a website. So like now I want to go to About Vim, I'm going to press R. I press H to go back. And yeah, so that's just a fun note. If you're really liking Vim, you can also add it to Chrome if you like. And yeah, there you go. That is my Vim tutorial. If you want to get more resources, I highly recommend checking out the Vim subreddit. They have a bunch of other resources so you can take your Vim knowledge to an even higher level.